Hello, everyone. This is Scott Masha from Young Entrepreneur, and I am sitting down with Jeff Dobson. Jeff is the owner-operator of Just About Homes, as well as he's a real estate agent in the local area. I'll let him discuss about that. He's graduated from Hudson University with a master's in business. He focuses on organizational management. So, Jeff, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jeff. Yeah, like Scott said, I own Just About Home. We do residential landscaping, construction sort of work. Anywhere from planting trees and shrubs, garden renovations, lawn installations, yard maintenance, anything like that, and small construction projects, decks, sheds, patios. I'm actually working on installing a barn door in somebody's house this week.
Barn doors.
Yeah.
Welcome to Maine.
You're right.
We do barn doors.
Okay. And I'm also a associate broker with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate out of Wyndham, which I mostly deal with new home buyers, just by luck of the draw. But yeah, I've been doing that for 2.5 years, and when the opportunity arises, I'm also an adjunct instructor at Hudson University in Westbrook.
Okay, so as some of you know, for the last month now, we've been doing about growth, about the business, but I wanted to get into a little bit more into the details about education. This was a conversation that started about 3 weeks ago with a small group that we put together, local businesses, and one of the key questions that we had was education as a small business. Should it be something that the business owner goes into fully educated? Should they have a degree in business, or should they have a degree in what they're educating themselves about running their business? Or should they focus on having their crew have it so that can better their business? So I reached out to Jeff, and because Jeff does training seminars at Hudson, it gave me an opening view. We sat for a good long time, almost about an hour the other day, just talking about what business owners can expect, or what they could offer themselves as far as education, even before or after they started their business. So, Jeff, can you talk to us about the educational side?
Yeah. So some of the stuff that I teach at Hudson, one of my favorite classes is a class called Organization and Management. And unfortunately, it's a 300 level class, so a lot of people take it when they're juniors or seniors. And unfortunately, a lot of times when students go into this class, they think it's going to help them with organizational skills, but that's kind of not the case. Basically, what organization and management teaches you about is the foundations of the company, and how they're created, how they're formed, how they're run, how they're managed, people interaction, that sort of stuff, which is really kind of what I'm passionate about, is understanding the fine details of how businesses run. As far as I think one of the biggest takeaways that I teach at Hudson is kind of the things that I've learned over the last couple of years being a business owner that they don't necessarily always teach in business school, even at the master's level. There are a lot of things that I found that are just not covered in some programs, and I want to make sure that I'm passing along that information and that knowledge to potential entrepreneurs.
No, I understand that. So you've owned a couple of businesses before you even started Just About Homes, right?
Yeah. So I did some landscaping back when I was in my early 20s, and, dabbled in little things here and there, but Just About Home was really, when I started that 2.5 years ago, that was really all right, this is like, I finally feel like I personally am at a point where I can do this and grow and succeed. When I was younger, it was just kind of a thing to do, so I wasn't as committed to it as I am now. And, knowing what I know now has made all the difference in the world.
So why did you start your business in the first place?
Why did I start Just About Home?
Yeah, why did you start Just About Home?
Sure. So I was in a position where I knew that doing the bidding of the man just wasn't my thing. And so one of the things that I really like is I really like helping people. I really like to work with my hands and do complete projects. And I really like to see a project all the way to completion. So to see the before and after, that's really satisfying for me. And I really appreciate what that look in the customer's eye after they see the finished product, and they're so appreciative of everything that you do for them, and they're just dumbfounded, and you're like, that's all the reason in the world. And one of the things I talk about in my organization and management class that we go over is how to motivate employees, and understanding, like, some people are motivated by money, some people are motivated by a job well done, some people are motivated by recognition from their bosses, some people are motivated by opportunities for advancement and stuff. And so really having discovered my own motivation is what's helped me get into that. And on top of doing that, on the real estate side of things, there is no better feeling than helping somebody make one of the biggest purchases of their life, knowing that you were an integral part of the process of making that dream come true for them.
So educating your employees. Now, let's just say it wasn't you. When it comes to that, as an owner, I want to go back to the topic we were talking about earlier this week, and that is, I'm a GED graduate. I graduated with my GED, and I I graduated from Barron Technical Institute as a auto body graduate. And the thing about that is, when I graduated, I never suspected I was going to do what I'm doing now. And so as far as education wise, I had the general education of what it was going to take for me to be a detailer, but never the general education about what it was going to take for me to run my business.
Sure.
Now, longevity wise, we're on our 10-year mark right now. And, that's the first question that always comes out of a lot of young entrepreneurs is, should I go to school for business first? Or do I have to go to school before I start my business?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. And I think it depends a lot on a lot of different circumstances. It has a lot to do with the business that you want to start or the business that you're running. It has a lot to do with you as a person and a learner. And it has a lot to do with just your ability to do so. I mean, there are a lot of different factors, but I think it's really important. Personally, I think it's super important for everybody to adopt a thought process of lifelong learning. So, whether that's, getting a business degree or finding a new hobby, picking up blacksmithing or something like that, just being in a position where you're constantly learning something, I think is super important for everybody. Now, as far as starting your own business, and, again, it depends on the business and it depends on the person and stuff. But, when I was a high school failure, I failed out of high school in 1998, and I was given the option to go to, at that time, Andover College, to take the classes that I needed to get the credits that I needed to be able to get my diploma. which I did. And so November of 1998, I finally got my diploma. It was a nice little ceremony with my mom and the president of the high school and me and a couple of cupcakes. And it was,
You like cupcakes, right?
look at me. Of course I do. And so then, you know, my first passion was I wanted to be a music teacher. So I went to USM in Gorham and studied music education. I failed out of there. I went to Andover College for business. I failed out of there. At, you know, this is all before I was 22 years old. So, you know, a 2-time college failure / dropout, and just, you know, digging holes. And what was I at 22? I just started selling cars and stuff. Like I was like kind of all over the place, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself. I was doing landscaping, and I was doing, you know, pretty much hustling any way I knew how to. And
so I want to break into that for one quick second.
Yeah.
Most of the people like, so I started my business, we got almost 10 years ago. And I started it because somebody reached out to me and said, hey, you know what? Your car is awful clean. Do you mind taking 5 minutes out and cleaning my car? Which, by the way, the car was a Lincoln Navigator, full size. And it probably took me and my wife all day long to clean it. And I got my first $200 bill. And I looked at her and I said, hey, people get paid to do this? And she looked at me and she said, yeah, I go to Portland, I get them detailed, and it would cost me at least that. What made you, do you feel that, I know a while ago, this is the landscaping part or the construction part has been a family thing.
yeah. So, you know, back in 1952, something like that, my great grandfather, Everett and Richard, or Dick, as people knew him, started Everett Dobson and Sons. And that was a local construction company out of Falmouth. And, you know, a lot of commercial, residential, pretty much you name it, all the way through the 80s and 90s, you know, 70s. They just killed it. And so when my grandfather got sick, late 90s, actually it was 20 years ago last week that he passed away. You know, the company wound down, and my father sold it all off. And, you know, my dad worked for the company since he was 15. And I was trying to get into it. And I remember clear as day when my father was going to close down the company. We had a talk. We were actually working at my Aunt Kathy's house. And I said, Dad, if you want to make this thing work, I'm going to stop everything I'm doing, and I want to come help you, and I want to see it work. And he's like, no, Jeff, you're going to follow your dreams, and you're going to do your thing. And you already know that I'm a jerk to work for. So, which is true. He is. But he's gotten a lot better. But yeah, I mean, there's just always kind of something in my blood that is like, I like to build things.
So let's be serious about this. Do you think your business could be, and I asked this question. It's one of my favorite questions asked. Do you think that you are more of a hands-on guy now than you were, or a business guy more now than you were when you first started your business?
I mean, I'm a hands-on kind of person anyhow, only because I'm a bit micromanagerial. I like to make sure that, and it's a flaw, and I know I need to work on it.
This is no good. Don't micromanage.
No. Well, I only say micromanage because I like to know what's going on. Mm-hmm. I like to have control of my money. I like to have control of the process. I like to have control over everything.
You find that as a flaw?
Well, it's a flaw because, you know, there are a lot of things that I can ask other people to do
Mm.
that.
Delegate.
Yeah, that's the word. That would take a lot off my plate to be able to, focus on what I need to do. And half of that is, making sure that you have the right people in the right places. So, I mean, kind of full circling back to that education thing, if I were to tell anybody, the kind of people that I'm looking for in my business don't necessarily need a business degree because they're not going to be running my business. I am. But I need them to know how to plant trees and shrubs and how to mow grass the right way and how to, maintain vehicles the right way. And, the people in my, in the real estate side of things, I'm super micromanagerial over there too. And I make sure that all my paperwork is pristine. And, if it's not, then it drives me crazy. So, having somebody on the team that's as detail oriented as I am, and, everybody wishes that they can clone themselves and have 12 of themselves all over the place, but we all know that's not possible. So we have to.
One of me is enough.
Right.
I don't need another one, honestly.
Yeah, as my wife says. But
well,
yeah,
I want to go back to something you just mentioned right there.
Yeah.
I don't think of running my business. I like to micromanage, and that's a flaw. No matter what way you look at it, to me, it's a flaw, because now what it ends up doing is it ends up putting my employees at a circumstance where I'm micromanaging my employees now. And what happens there? Well, are you doing this the right way? Are you doing that the right way? And by doing this, it pressures them. It doesn't really put them in a position where they feel that they can do a good job, because they feel like I'm always going to be over their shoulder. Now, at the same time, I was thinking about something else you were just saying. You were saying that you wanted them to plant shrubs and do this and do that, but over time, you're going to find yourself lowering that micromanagement, because you're going to want a little bit more freedom to yourself. That's the whole reason why you built your business, is to give yourself that freedom. So at that point, you're going to need to release that rein and give that management position to somebody else who's going to manage that business. And to them, they're going to need that business education.
Yeah, I mean, there's a combination of street smarts and book smarts in pretty much everything. So street smarts being like the actual application of everything, mm-hmm. how to plant the trees and shrubs, how to mow the lawns, how to do this, how to do that. And a lot of that comes from the training that either, maybe they went to SMCC for horticulture management or whatever. Maybe they've just been planting trees and shrubs for a while. Who knows? But that's when I think the value for for you as a business owner providing that training for your employees, and to make sure that they know the expectations up front, and they know, you do that hands-on training with them, so they know what's expected. So you don't have to micromanage them. You can give them that freedom, knowing that they're going to do as good a job because you train them how to do it.
What about management?
You could do the same thing with management. The problem there is that not everybody manages the same way, and not every, there are a lot of different schools of thought when it comes to management practices and processes and business development and that sort of stuff. And unfortunately, there's still a lot of old school mentalities out there where, it's, everything's on a need to know basis, and you don't need to know until you need to know. And
you find that as a flaw?
Oh, absolutely. I think transparency is 100% necessary if you want to grow your business and build your people. And I've worked for a couple of companies that have operated in that, 1980s sort of, cash is king, hit that number. We only develop our sales team because they're the ones who bring in the money sort of people. I've worked for companies before that there is literally no training for any of their operations or admin staff. And so you're like, okay, the sales department gets training because they have to bring in the money. And
his look is better than mine.
It's the beard.
It's the beard.
And the service department gets training because they need to be able to work on the product that they sell. But there's this whole other half of your business that is expected to just nose to the grindstone, know your role, get it done. And there's no development there. So they're missing out on huge opportunities for them to grow their people, to be even more efficient and more effective and more, just promote that all around, productive workflow throughout all of the departments.
So as far as the education side, let me get this straight. Your feeling about this is, if you can, whether you have done it prior to starting your business or whether you've done it after you started a business, at least try to get some type of education in there.
Yeah, I think some kind of, it doesn't necessarily have to be, go get a degree or something. You don't need a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. Although I will tell you that, the entire reason that I got my master's degree in business was more of a personal goal than anything else. Because of my previous failures when I was younger, I really wanted to prove to myself that I was capable of achieving that level of, in my mind, success. And there are varying forms of success in life. That is, educational success, I think for me at that point was really important. And my master's degree is really, a lot of people go and get a degree thinking that, as soon as I get my degree, I'm going to end up making more money. Well, I'm not saying that's necessarily not the case, but you can't really do that. Obviously there has to be some kind of a return on your investment, but it may not necessarily be monetary.
You're looking at long term when it comes to that.
Yeah. And so, I think if you are going to start a business, I think two of my biggest pieces of advice is to make sure that you're utilizing all of your resources. Use SCORE, use family and friends, use your gut, and then make sure that you educate yourself, not just in the processes of how to do whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's making widgets or providing a service or whatever.
I would love to make a widget of you right now.
Wouldn't you?
Yes, sir.
Quite dashing widget.
Well, it depends on how long the beard would have to be. Might block out some of the square,
No. But just having that background of knowing what to expect, do some reading, do some research, go into it feeling incredibly confident. That's super important, because if you have any doubt in your mind, nobody else is going to believe in you. It's really hard to maintain that sort of, and I'm sure you've gone through this too, that sort of feeling like the world is just kicking your ass every day, and trying to keep that, this is gonna work, I know it's gonna work, I might be dealt a poo hand right now, but we always come out on top, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, a lot of detailers, that's a common problem with us. So some of us are affected by seasons. Some, like you, on landscaping, has its ups and downs when it comes to seasons. But
yeah, real estate does too.
Yep. Yeah, especially this time of year. I think when people question education, I look at it this way. I at least want my employees to be as educated as possible. And the only reason why is that is I feel that today's society has grown apart from that. We have looked at our employees as, well, come on in, we'll teach you how to do the job. You're going to get to a level where we want you. But the truth is today's society has called for a demand for a price increase on their raises and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to get that individual to come in at a level that's worth that raise. So when it comes to education to me, I look at people right now and I'm like, hey, here's the deal. I can teach people to be a detailer, but I can't teach them to be business savvy.
Sure. Yeah.
So at that point in time, there needs to be a line where you look at your employee and say, hey, here's the deal. For me to be able to pay you $16 an hour or $20 an hour, you have to be educated on how much business you have to take in to be able to pull that much money out as a revenue.
Sure.
Okay. What's the best way to explain that to your employee, and how can we do it without, how do you say it, injuring their ego?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it all depends really on what you want out of your people. You know, I think it's really good to bring people on that have that business savvy. And the problem is like when you, like I said before, you know, the expectation of, okay, I have all this knowledge and all this information and you're going to pay me for it. And that's fine. But as long as you're applying it, is really where the value is. And, you know, us as business owners, we're allowing them to apply it, or even expecting them to apply it. You see, for me, finding people in the labor world who want to be out in the sun for 12 hours a day digging holes is, you know, at $15 an hour is damn near impossible.
Where do you reach out for people like that? Maybe we're lacking on a group of, like, maybe as a group, a lot of small businesses. I mean, this is a common problem right now. A lot of places throughout the entire country right now are having a hard time finding not even laborers, just educated employees at that point. I mean, a lot of people have become tech savvy, so hands-on, or I think when we called it when we were kids, it was blue collar workers. We don't have them as much anymore.
It's the trades. Yeah. Yeah. A great person to follow for that is Mike Rowe. And Mike Rowe speaks speaks to the trades quite a bit. And I follow and appreciate the work that he does for promoting trade companies and trade education. And I think it's super important. There's a lot of opportunities to be had. And, you know, whether it's electrical, plumbing, carpentry, you know, landscaping, any of those services.
Horseshoeing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Horseshoe on that horse.
It's a little bit more of a niche. You know, a lot of that's the stuff that's in demand, because a lot of the white collar people, quote unquote, are too damn busy.
Mm-hmm.
They're spending so much time
shaking and kissing babies,
trying to make that dollar.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have time to mow their lawns and stuff anymore. And, you know, and the time that they do have, they want to spend with their family.
Now it works the same side to cut into this really quick. We don't have very much longer to go, but
yeah.
I think I got a few more questions to ask. I'll break them down really fast. Now, sure. As a business owner, should we be looking at the long goal ahead of time? So a lot of people tend to look at, well, I can do this now. I can do this now. I can make this happen right now, but they don't look at the end game. Now, how do we start? What's the best way to merge both of them? So get a little bit of now, but make sure that we're accomplishing our end game.
In what capacity? Can you give me an example?
Well, I think for me, we purchased a building over the last year, and my short game is I always like to see new things added to our business that makes it efficient for our business to be efficient for our clients, as well as give our clients what they need.
Sure.
But the end game, making sure that my business can run efficiently even without me. See, that's the end game for me, is to be able to step away from my business and take my 2 weeks off without having to worry about my business going on the flop.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to, I think you talked with somebody else about this as far as business planning, to have those goals laid out and in writing. And I think it's really, really important to make sure that you have that end goal, that vision laid right out. But obviously you can't achieve that without the smaller steps first. So, for me, it's like 2 years ago, I needed a dump truck. And at that point, it didn't matter if it was 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, had a plow, didn't have a plow, whatever. I needed a dump truck bad. So I went and I bought a $4,500 dump truck. It's a giant pile of metal, but it still runs great. I still own it. I still run it all summer long. It was a good $4,500, no matter what my wife tells me, and how many hundreds of dollars in parts I have to throw at it. It's still a good truck. But without that truck, I wouldn't have been able to provide some of the services and do some of the jobs that I needed to do to start working on growing my business to the point where I can, have more clients, to do better work, to buy newer equipment, and et cetera, et cetera. So you kind of have to, it's a weird balance of making sure that, sure, this is good enough for now, but it needs to get me to where I want to be. But is this the right good enough for now, or am I just compromising too much?
Well, I think my next question is going to be, I usually try to ask, I ask all my guys on my podcast, as well as our YouTube channel. So if you haven't seen our YouTube channel, make sure that you stop by and see some of this fluffiness going on here today.
Are we talking fluffy here or fluffy here?
Oh, fluffy all the way around. That's what it works. So, come on, Jeff. Talk to me about small local businesses. What's your favorite place to eat?
My favorite place to eat. My immediate thought has been one of my favorite places ever since I was a kid, as Harmon's Hamburgers, Route 100 in Falmouth.
Oh, hey, man. It's great burgers, man.
They are the best.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's got that atmosphere too. It's a down home, hole in the wall atmosphere, which I like a lot too.
Bring cash.
But only cash, because he doesn't do credit.
No.
Okay. And my last question before we let you go is, let's talk about books. I like reading books. I like listening to podcasts. So if you got one of those that you would suggest to our public, what would it be?
Right now I am reading Mark Manson's what's the name of it? Oh my gosh. It's one of the it's an orange cover.
Do we need to Google it?
No, something having to do with not giving a fuck.
Welcome to business.
but basically it says, and I'm going to use his words, not directly quoted, but essentially what the book is about is forgetting about the little stuff that doesn't really matter, and not giving a fuck about that stuff, but actually giving a fuck about the stuff that really matters, and giving a fuck about it passionately, so it's really about directing your fucks.
It's about fucking.
Right. But personally, one of my favorites is Capital Gains by Chip Gaines, from Chip and Joanna, the Magnolia people. Fixer Upper show on HGTV.
Mhm.
It turns out that he and I think really, really similarly. So when I was reading that book, I was like, oh my God, there's somebody out there that gets me.
Hmm.
It was really incredible. So after I read through that book, it really touched me a lot. And I thought that was a really good read. It kind of talks about how they built up the Magnolia brand and the things that they were going through personally and professionally. And
Want to give a shout out. Hey, Aaron Nugent, how you doing today? This is Jeff from Just About Homes. If you guys have got questions, I should do a little bit of shout out every once in a while. Make sure that you post your questions to this. We want to make sure that we're answering them as much as possible. And for those that are listening to our podcast, always feel free to send us a message through info@totaleclipsedetailing.com, because we want to be able to answer these questions for you anytime that you have one. Jeff, I want to thank you very much for stopping in and giving us a shout out and sitting down with our young entrepreneur community.
Anytime. Happy to.
I'd like to have you back on. And hey, guys, this is, can you tell us how people can reach you if they have any questions? Is there a way for them to maybe send you an email and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think the easiest place is my email address, which is jeff@justabouthome.us. You can also find us on the web, www.justabouthome.us, or through Facebook, Just About Home LLC.
Awesome. And is there something you would like to leave with before we shut this down for the day?
I think if anything is a big takeaway out of this, I hope that people truly consider the value of lifelong learning and constantly just trying to better yourself, not for any other reason other than you want to.
Awesome. Hey guys, this is Scott Masha from Young Entrepreneur, sitting with Jeff Dobson from Just About Homes. If you got any questions, like I said before, email us at info@totaleclipsedetailing.com and hook up with Jeff. He'll be glad to answer any questions that you guys have. I hope you have yourselves a great day, and we'll see you later.
Peace out, all.